Welcome everyone. This is Anne Manera and we are working on another color along today. Today's topic is shading with colored pencils. And I'll be using Speer Farben colored pencils. I have the 72 set. The other thing I'm going to be doing today is while I'm coloring, I'm going to be talking about 8 different tips that you can focus on to when you're coloring a coloring page and you're shading with colored pencils. And we're going to talk about how we can use those tips to our advantage. So this page is from the Coloring Gatherings coloring book, which can be found on my website, annemanera.com. And in today's coloring page, I'm using these Speer Farben pencils, as I said, but I'm going to focus on shading with either one color or 2 colors, or even sometimes 3 colors. So we're going to go over this, and I'm going to kind of talk about that as I am coloring, talk about these different tips and how colored pencils can add depth, dimension, and they can almost add realism to your artwork too. So if you learn how to shade effectively, it could transform a flat drawing like this on the one we're working on today into a coloring page that almost feels 3-dimensional. So one of the things I want to focus on this particular page to get that 3-dimensional look is I'm going to focus on the boots. And one of the things I want to focus on with those boots is I want to make them the star of the show. And by that I mean we want to really focus on these and know that these are in the foreground and the background is the sand in the ocean that the beach that they're sitting on. The other thing that's in the foreground are the flowers. So I'm actually going to start with the boots. I don't usually do that with what's in the foreground, but for this one I'm going to start with the boots. And I'm going to make these boots pink because this is kind of a coastal cowgirl style page, and I want to really I don't want to just go with the browns. So I'm going to first start out with peach. Now, it's a shade of pink. So one of the things, and I'm just going to get going as I'm talking. One of the things that you can do when you're shading with colored pencils to make it something that is really, really effective is to begin by applying a light layer of color to build up that shading gradually. Now, this page is a bit of a grayscale page because you can kind of see the grays that are around in the background there. And if I apply the same pressure to the entire boot, which is what I'm going to do first because I want to start out with that light layer of color across the entire, what do you call this part of the boot? The part that goes on your leg. What is that called? Let me know in the comments if you're watching. That goes on top of your leg. The shaft of the boot, is that what it's called? The light layers will give you more control and allow for smoother transitions. So as you add that depth, it'll start to give you that smooth transition. Now, if you notice, I'm still coloring all of the parts of the boot, okay, with this pink layer. I'm going to do the same thing on this one. I'm going to leave this bottom part with a different color. Make these boots as funky as possible. But medium to, or light to medium pressure is what I'm using with this color. This is Peach from Speer Farben 72 pack of colored pencils. And these are oil-based colored pencils. So in another video, I'll be talking about the difference between oil-based versus wax-based colored pencils, expensive colored pencils versus cheapo colored pencils, or affordable. I'm not even going to say cheap. I'm just going to say affordable is really what it is. Now this part is kind of like just the strap that goes on there, although back here is not. Okay, now I've got this other color, which is carnation, and I'm going to go back over again with this carnation color, and I'm going to start at the bottom of the boot that I've already colored here. Again, using that same type of pressure, same type of medium to light pressure. Now you see how it's kind of creating that depth? Because I'm really focusing on starting out with light layers of color, building them up gradually as I move across this page. And then again here. Now, for this top portion here, see how it has all those lines? We're going to go back over that with something else. But I'm basically adding a little bit of a heavy pressure as I get closer to these flowers right here. And then kind of easing up a little bit. I'm going to get my dog Grace to be still here. Grace, just sit still, honey, okay? All right, so there we go. We've got that little bit of a pressure. I'm also going to take my carnation pink and color the inside of the boot, because usually that's a little darker, or sometimes it's a different color. But again, when you're focusing on a grayscale page too, you want to really follow along with the grays that are in the page. And if you use that light pressure or the same pressure and an even pressure, the grays in the page and the darks in the light, the dark area will create that shading for you. So this is kind of a combination style page, because it's got some areas that we're going to have to really focus on shading manually. I'll say it manually versus allowing for the grays to create that shading for us. And again, just a lighter pressure here. So the other thing we want to talk about too is adjusting that pencil pressure. So depending on the shade, and you may have noticed that I went a little bit heavier pressure on the inside of these. I'm going to use this vanilla flower. Can you see that it is like almost over? This pencil's almost over. And I'm going to use a heavier pressure here. So adjusting the pressure depending on the shade that you would like. So would you like a light shade of yellow? Would you like a dark shade of yellow? I'm using just kind of a heavy pressure along this, I'm going to call it the trim of the boot. And that'll allow for it being darker or lighter or create a different form of shading. And again, I'm still following along with the grays in this particular page. There's a little bit of yellow right there. And this goes across the top too. This is just kind of a line right there. So the other thing is you don't want to have, you don't want to see the transition. Let's put it that way. You don't want to see the transition between the lights and the darks, or the heavy pressure and the light pressure. So you want to just kind of gradually go from heavy to dark. And I guess it does take practice, but I think you can think of it as, I'm going to use this yellow at the bottom too. I think you can also think of it as, are you a heavy-handed, a heavy pressure colorist, or do you just color lighter and then just keep going over it? And that's all up in individual choice too. You don't have to always do things a certain way, because, you know, I was originally going to talk about different mistakes that people make in coloring and how you can make them better. And I was looking at some information. I was doing some research on what are different, because I really couldn't think of any mistakes, to be honest with you. I was just, because to me, there are really no mistakes. And I was looking at this list that I had found during doing some research. And finally, I said to myself, I can't talk about this, because there are no mistakes. I mean, it talked about using the color wheel. You don't have to use the color wheel. I mean, it talked about, let me see, I have it written down here. I have my notes here. It talked about making sure that you always swatch. You don't always have to swatch. Scarlett, why don't you come over here and lay down? Come on, come over here and lay down and not bark. Come here, please. Come on, it's okay. Lay down, sweetie. Okay? Lay down. No, you gotta lay down, Scarlett. My dog Scarlett is here. And of course, Grace. I think I need to go get her a biscuit. Hang on a second while I go get the dog a biscuit. Fill out this little area here. Hang on one second. Here. Lay down, girls. So I've added, see if they can lay down. Go ahead, lay down, Scarlett. I've added this vanilla flower color. And now I'm gonna go in with kind of like an orange, I guess, on this part right here and do some shading with that. This one is autumn orange. And I am just going to follow along with where the dark areas are on this one. Allowing the shadows or the shades in the grayscale in the illustration itself to be my guide, I guess you might want to say. You know, now it's kind of dark right there. I've added a little bit of a more orange there. I'm going to add a little bit more orange in this corner and maybe a little bit more orange here. I'm actually going to make this little doodad thing right here and add a little bit of orange here, kind of accenting these lines. I have to help Grace. Ooh, Grace, you okay? Okay, sit down. So see how that just kind of fits like that. I'm adding a little bit of this orange on those accent pieces. Again here, a little bit of orange at the bottom. And I'm going to do the same thing to the next boot. I've already colored inside this area here. And then into this area here. I have to pivot a little bit here. Now see those lines right there, those little gray dark lines? That's telling me I need to make that a little bit darker. And I'm just going to kind of accent these little lines here. So we've got some shading there. Now, I'm going to add some black when I'm at the end of this page. So because we really want it to stand out and we really want it to pop. So the next thing we're going to work on is the sole of the boot. And I'm going to go with some brown. And I'm going to use this burnt sienna brown. And for this one, I am just simply going to really follow the shading and the shadows in this particular page. And you can find more grayscale coloring books on my in my Etsy shop, annemanera.etsy.com. And I actually think I'm going to be I took some of the books away from out of the shop because I kind of like to freshen up the products that are in the shop. But I'm going to be adding some more grayscale coloring books. I'm watching my dog Scarlet, who has decided to get underneath my chair and lay down. And now has decided to squeeze her body out of the area that she was laying in. Why did she get there in the first place? I don't even know. Do you have a pet, well, a dog friend or a cat friend that's coloring with you? And you think to yourself, am I making things comfortable? This is sun-kissed. Am I making things comfortable for myself, or am I making them comfortable for the dog? All right, I'm just going across here with this sun-kissed color. Grace, I don't know why she decided to do that. All right, so there's my... Now, notice I'm not blending. I'm not blending anything with any type of blender, tool type thing like that. I just want to make sure that the transition and the blending is done with the actual colored pencils. All right, so now we've got these flowers here, and those I'm going to make kind of like a little bit of a brighter color. This one is called Fuchsia Pink. I always gravitate towards this color. And I'm going to start with the heavy pressure in the middle, and then I'm going to bring it out with a lighter pressure. So some of these flowers do have that little bit of a gray, and if you notice on this one, I'm trying not to see that transition. I don't want it to be, you know, this and this. I don't want to see this right here. I don't want to see that line. I want to have a smooth transition. Smooth. See, that one didn't work out so good. But I think it's because of the position. See, I have to kind of tilt a little bit. And I have a piece of paper under here, like I always do, because you don't want it to get on the other page. You don't want the pressure of what you're coloring. Even if it's not going to have any type of bleed through, you still don't want that to happen. All right, so this one, I'm going to do the same thing. And then I think I'm going to do something to the tips of these flowers. Excuse my pivot. So the other thing that happens too is that when you're shading with something, consider the light source. So we could, if this was a still life drawing, for example, then, and I'm not considering the light source in this particular coloring page, but you could consider that the light is coming from the left, for example. So that means that the left side of everything, of all of the objects that you're coloring, would be lighter, and on the right side, it would kind of be, you know, where the sun don't shine, and that would be an area that would be darker. So you could consider the light source in this case right here with this particular flower, as in it's this flower above it is casting a shadow onto the bottom one, onto the one underneath. So this one I will do a little bit of a heavier pressure. Because I do want that to I want it to look like it is behind it. It is kind of casting a little bit of a shadow over it or on top of it. Here's something I missed right here. All right, now, this is a different flower right here. Is it a different flower? No, I'm going to make it the same thing. It's just a different angle of the flower. Now, this one could be much lighter than the rest. Like, this certainly would have to be darker down here because the light would not be hitting this particular flower at the bottom. Does that make sense? All right, now I'm going to color this little kind of wispiness right here. That's not the color I wanted. Oh, do you ever grab colors and you think to yourself, that is not what I wanted? Keep up, hands. You know? Here it is. It's this one right here. It's called French Lavender. And I'm just going to kind of do a nice light color here. And then here's another color here. Another little flower here. and down here. And I'm letting those, the lights, the grays, the darks, all kind of come into play. I'm going to do this one with this purple too on this side. Okay, so I want to work on those little flowers right there. And I want to add a little bit of something to the tip. So I'm going to use this melon color, which is kind of like a yellow color in a way. And I'm going to just kind of hit the tips with it. Just kind of a little bit. It almost gives it a little bit of a glow. And I don't want to do it to every single one because I don't want to change the color. I just want it to kind of look like it has a little bit of a glow to the top of it. And same thing on these. Now I'm really getting excited about the greens because the greens are really going to make it pop. It's really going to, because you can do a lot of depth with those greens. You can do a lot of, well, let's not explain too much. Let's just, you know, dive right into it. The first color I'm going to start out with is this olive green. And I think I have grass. Oh, this is just green. What an exciting name. Actually, I think I will use that green color. And I have a nice fine tip. And I'm just going to create just those nice lines. Now, what ends up happening with these is you can go back in with a darker color on the, like as you're moving along. And I'm going to alternate between that green, this olive green color, and then this color right here. Eucalyptus tree. Just kind of giving it a little bit of that pressure there. So that kind of creates that dark. Because you kind of want to have that darkness way in the back there. And I'm just going to bounce between here. Here's a little bit of something up there. Oh, I do need to color this. I forgot a couple of little things here. This and this. And as I'm moving down, I'm going to go with this green color. So you're already kind of seeing the shadows or the shading of it, even just through using the different greens. And now in this behind part right here, I'm going to use this darker color. See how that just kind of makes it, you know, stand out a little bit more? Just makes it pop a little bit. And keeping a nice sharp pencil is good for this particular area of the coloring page. And using this olive color for here. And then I'm going to go back in with eucalyptus again. So put eucalyptus way in the behind. Way back there. And just add some green to these here, right here. So the other thing that you could do is you could use a burnishing technique. Now, a burnishing technique is all about adding color to the point where it has a sheen. Not a shine, a sheen. And it's basically coloring really, really, really heavy pressure. So it's kind of got that sheen to it, and it becomes very, very dark. A lot of people think that it's a waste of the pencil. And I agree. I mean, sometimes it could be a waste of the pencil. Now, I left this part back here because this is our sand that we're going to be moving on to. And now I'm going to move on to this side with our greens. And I'm just going to randomly color here's a leaf actually. Randomly color some of these with the olive green color. Now, did you notice I'm doing each leaf or a piece of grass, not even leaf. Let's talk about it as a piece of grass. I'm doing each piece of grass individually because if you were to go across the whole page with green like this, then I really would make a difference. You wouldn't be able to see that they're all different. So this is just kind of an attention to detail that you may not think is even worth it, but in the end it is. And again, here's this eucalyptus color that I am kind of adding on in the behind there. Now you could also add a lighter color back there too to kind of get like a glow coming from behind. That would be interesting. You could go 2 colors on top of each other. I'm going to take this olive style. This olive color. So a lot of people say, oh, what kind of paper should I use? So that'll make a difference too when it comes to shading with colored pencils. I mean, if you're using this paper is just on basic, you know, computer paper, basic 20-pound paper. This is doesn't have any tooth to it. And by that, when we talk about paper tooth is all about the roughness or the smoothness or the lack of the roughness of it. So the rougher the paper, the more pits that is in the paper, that means it has more tooth to it. And that will give you a totally different look. But on the smooth part, I mean, you could still get the same type of look. You don't have to really worry about having fancy paper. So I've got these 2 pieces here, this left side and this right side. I'm going to move on to this right side, and I'm going to use something that will complement these flowers on this side. So these to me look like they should be, well, they do look like they should be a shade of pink, but maybe something a little different. Let's go with this purple pink color. And I'm going to go heavy pressure inside each petal at the center and then come out with light. So that is creating this shading of this lightness at the tip of each petal. Again, I'm coloring each petal individually. I'm not coloring the whole flower like across it. I'm going in the direction of what each item is or what each particular line is, or how the area is drawn. So I'm coloring from the center out as if it was growing. And certainly maybe the leaves at the bottom, or the petals, I'm sorry, calling them leaves. The petals of this flower at the bottom of the flower where I'm working on right now could be much darker than what's up here, because that's probably being kissed by the sun. And just kind of coloring back out. I have to just kind of pivot this a little bit. Make sure we get the whole shebang. Get this part right here. Now I'm gonna make these different colors, but I am gonna do the center of it with a yellow color, and I am going to use golden yellow for this part right here, just as we come up. So just kind of making it really stand out. And then I'm going to take this color here, which is Bumblebee, and I'm going to just kind of hit the tips. Just like we did with the other ones. I'm hitting the tips of this one with this Bumblebee color. Now for this one down here, I'm going to go a little bit different in a different color. I'm going to go a little different for the color. I'm going to go with this purple color, which is called Rose Luster. And I want it to be in the same shade or the same family of color, I guess, of the first flower, but I want to also remember that this flower is further down. It's above this one, so maybe it's not as dark. It's kind of a similar color, though, now that I'm using it. And maybe under here, this should be a little bit darker. And underneath this part. I'm going to put some yellow at the center of it, just like I did for the first one. Here's some more of that, kind of that particular plant right there. I'm going to go with this color for these also back here. And then I'm going to take this champagne color, and I'm just going to kind of like hit the tips of this. Get our yellow color right here, which is called golden yellow. And I'm going to put some golden yellow behind here because I just kind of want it to be, to kind of look like it stands out a little bit. And I am going to go with this flower right here, and I'm going to use a very heavy pressure. So this is kind of a burnishing technique right here for these particular little flowers. Heavy, heavy, heavy pressure. Now, stick around, because as we get closer to the end of this page and we're starting to use some black, it's really going to pop. All right, now for the background, so we've got this all set here. I want to make sure that the center of these flowers is another color. We're going to go with this orange color. I always pick out the colors that have the most boring names. Okay, we are ready for our sand. Now, I'm going to go with maple, and I'm going to color it. I'm going to pivot here. I'm going to color on an angle, because for this particular part right here, I really want to take advantage of these lights and darks in this grayscale area of this page. And see how those little kind of lines are there? I'm going to go all the way up to here because this is where the ocean starts. And then in between this part, should be a little bit darker because it's in between there, and then kind of like right there too. And then we've got that ocean up there. So I'm going to do the same technique with that, and I'm going to use this summer sky blue. I'm going to go completely over that ocean right there. I don't like that line I just made there. Oh man. Well, there's a mistake. Let's ignore it. Now, this is when you're supposed to say when you make a mistake, oh, I meant to do that. You're not supposed to point out your mistakes. Now, I'm going to take the same maple, and I'm just going to kind of use it on its point and just kind of fill in some different spots. Like inside these little areas. I want to call them the crevices, maybe. And I'm going to do some heavier pressure down here too. Okay. Now, oh, inside here. Now here comes the, you know, the star of the show. The star of the show. I don't know. It's not really the star of the show. We're going to work with this black pencil, and we're just going to give it a little bit of, kind of a little bit of a black in there. Here's again some black. And I just want to kind of accent where the darkest parts of the page are. Because that's what's really going to make it pop. We don't want to outline it with black. We just want to kind of touch it with black. So we're going to kind of give it an unfinished line, if you will. Especially like underneath here. We want to make sure that our eye goes to the bottom of this and that this is black. And if you've watched my color alongs, I've done this. You may have seen me do this technique several times, where I add kind of just that little bit and it creates such a difference. See right there? Here's another little like really black spot right there. Again here. So it almost has a painterly effect, I guess. If you were doing a painting, you would be working in this style. Now we've got all these little like, you know, lines here. And I've got my nice sharp pencil. And I'm just going to kind of not really outline all of it, but go over a little bit of it. And then we've got this part right here with the sand. So just like I did where I added the little bit of black, I could add a little bit of black over here too. Don't worry, I haven't forgotten the sky. It's going to be a little bit of kind of a light blue color up there. And now see kind of under here how there's those little like dark areas. And I'm adding some black in between our grass. Here's another section of black I want to add. In between the grass, because I really want that grass to pop out. That's why I left a lot of the grass area uncovered. It's uncovered. And the same thing here. These look like French fries. Come on, you saw it, right? They really do look like French fries. Now I want to fry. I guess we could pop some ketchup on it. What do you put on your fries? I put ketchup and vinegar. Vinegar is like I guess it's a kind of a New England thing to do. With vinegar and ketchup on your fries. Some people put ketchup and mayonnaise. Some people just put salt. I don't put salt. We always go back to food when I don't know why. I always go back to food when I'm coloring. And you may think I was sitting here snacking on something, but I'm not. All right, so I'm just going to add a little bit of black up here. Now, see how that black is really making a difference and really making it kind of like pop? That is the whole point of the black. The black is to make it pop. And I can even kind of put a little bit of these like little black, accentuate these blacks in these purple flowers. Kind of a little bit of a scribble. All right, so now let's take a look at the sky that's way up there. I want something that is a very, very light blue, and this seems to do the trick, Blue Lagoon. And I'm going to do, again, on this kind of on an angle, because I want it to be extremely light. I'm actually not worried about those clouds right now. Ignore that part right there. This is how I want it to look. Like this. And that's it. That is my finished page. I don't really see anything else that I need to add to it. I guess I could add a little bit of white. Wait a minute. I'm going to add a little bit of white. I don't know if it's going to make a difference. It's not really making a difference on these flowers. That's okay, though. Maybe on these. I think the white would act more of a, act like more of a colorless blender, if anything. But I just kind of like, I mean, just a little bit of a touch. Now I'm deep into the white here, so. All right. I have to stop myself. Yeah, I have to stop and leave it. You gotta know when to leave well enough alone. So that's my finished page. So thanks for coloring with me today. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to my YouTube channel because it really helps me out, really gets me to be able to add more videos to this channel. I need to hit 500 subscribers, and I am like 30 away from 500 subscribers. So if you could help me out by hitting that subscribe button, hitting that like button, tell a friend about it, it would really help me out. Anyway, I will see you at the next color along. Thanks so much for watching.